This is a tutorial regarding chord theory and its application on the 5-string banjo. Let's start by looking at our screen. We have two parts here. On the right side is simply the notes as they fall on a 5-string banjo tuned to open G tuning. On the left side, we have the pure chromatic scale. All music in Western civilization uses 12 pitches, and these 12 pitches are laid out on the top line, starting with G, because G is so important on a 5-string banjo tuned to open G chord. Each, from left to right, pitch goes up 1 fret on a banjo. Notice the banjo on the 3rd string open is a G. Then when you move up to the 3rd string 1st fret, you have a G sharp, as in the pure chromatic scale on the left. And you continue up the banjo at the 2nd fret on the 3rd string with an A, and that's what shows on the left chart. So they are actually the same representation all the way up to the 12th fret of a banjo on the 3rd string. Notice the other strings on a banjo follow the same sequence, they just start at different pitches, and at the 12th fret they will end at that same pitch. But they also follow the pure chromatic scale. Also on the left chart, we have flat names listed: A flat, B flat, D flat, E flat, G flat. Those are what's called the enharmonics of the sharps that are above them. That pitch is exactly the same pitch that is for musicians' sake. Theoretically there is a difference, but for musicians they're the same. So a G sharp could also be called an A flat, an A sharp is also a B flat, and so forth. Below the chromatic scale on the chart on the left, we have the answer sheet as to what pitches make up each chord. On the left, we have the actual root notes. These are the harmony notes that go together to make up an A chord. And so these are the names of the chords here, and these are the notes that add to it to make the full chord happen. Later we will get to what these parentheses notes mean, but for now, disregard them. Alright, let's get started here. A chord is a group of 3 or more notes at one time. Any of these 3 pitches on this chart at one time will produce a chord. I could do, the ugliest chord possible might be these 3 notes together. I've got a banjo to demonstrate here. Here's a D, a C sharp, and a C note. That is a chord, but it's ugly. The harmony, as they say, is too close. The intervals are too close to each other. So we need to widen our intervals to get a more pleasing sound. Now, let's start with a G chord, what they do. They don't do G, G sharp, and A, close intervals. They do G, and we'll call that X. Then we go up 4 pitches, 1, 2, 3, 4. And they will play B with that G. Then they'll go up 3 more and play D. G, B, and D will make a G major chord, a G happy chord. So the formula is X plus 4 plus 3, always to make a major chord. Let's say then we want to make an A chord. A is X, plus 1, 2, 3, 4 gives us C sharp, plus 1, 2, 3 gives us E. A, C sharp, and E gives us an A chord. Let's do a C chord. C is X plus 4 plus, aha, we run out of pitches here, so we must go back and catch it over here. C, E, and G make for a C chord. If we do a D chord, D is X plus 1, 2, 3, 4, cycling back, plus 1, 2, 3, D, F sharp, and A make a D chord. If we do an E chord, E is X plus 1, 2, 3, 4, plus 1, 2, 3. An E chord is E, G sharp, and B. E, G sharp, and B. And finally, let's do an F chord. Up 1, 2, 3, 4. Up 1, 2, 3. F, A, and C make an F chord. Matter of fact, let's not stop there. Let's do one more. Let's do F sharp. F sharp is X plus 1, 2, 3, 4 plus 1, 2, 3. Notice this does not say, here's F. I have G flat, B flat, and D flat. G flat, B flat, and D flat. F sharp is the enharmonic of G flat. So this chord could be called by either one of these names for pure theory's sake. Options. Now let's apply this to the 5-string banjo. Your banjo is tuned to an open G chord. GBD. G plus 4 plus 3. GBD. Notice there are 2 Ds, 2 Gs, and 1 B. Multiples are what you normally want when you play a chord, not just a GBD and leave it at that. Double up whatever notes you can to make a bigger sound happen. Now, notice that some of my students in the past have said, well, Rick, why isn't this a B chord or a D chord? So let's look at this. If I was to call this a B chord, I would need B, D sharp, and F sharp as my notes. Simply does not fit the formula. X plus 4 plus 3 is not working here on this B. So if I go and say, is this a D chord? D, F sharp, and A. No, that's not a D chord. The only way this works is if the G is the name of this chord. So the root of the chord is on the 3rd string. And that is key to what we're about to do. So we're always going to go up on the 3rd string of a banjo to get the names of the chords. If we look at right here, A, C sharp, and E. That's the three notes in an A chord. B, D sharp, F sharp. There's the B chord. C, E, G. There's our C chord. So as long as we go up on this string, we get the names of the notes in the chord. Now let's use this to great advantage. Say we know a G chord is just open, but now I want to play a C chord. So if we look on the third string, C chord is C, E, and G. You could lay your fingers across right here and get a C chord. No problem, straight across. But in first position, that means just staying in this area here. To get a C chord, we mix these three notes up and we'll have a C chord. So on the first string, there's an E that could be used. On the second string, there's a C that we could use here. On the third string open, the banjo is holding the pitch of G. On the fourth string, there's another E over here. Then we look at the fifth string. It's a good pitch. It's in the chord. So we could play that open. Notice that the general rule is whatever you do on the first string, you match on the fourth because they're both tuned to the same pitches. So again, here's our fingering. We put first finger here, second finger here, third finger here. We have a C chord. Let's do this with a D chord. D, F sharp, and A. Here is something special. On this string, we can do a D or an F sharp in first position. But on this string, we have no option other than D in first position. So we would never want to play two Ds in a row, normally. So we would do the F sharp here. And we also need an A. There's our A. And we could take this open D. There is a D chord. We also have an option of playing this F sharp as our matching rule. We look at the fifth string. This is a no-go. We don't want a G. And here is an A that would fit. That's why a lot of times in songs that are using D chords as the key chord, they would tune to an A, hooking the fifth string up 2 frets. Let's do a E chord. E, G sharp, and B. There's an E. Open B. G sharp. Match the E. Fifth string. Nope. This is the good pitch here. So we cannot use a G open. Let's do an F chord. F, A, C. F on the first string. C here. A. Match the F. No. Let's do a stranger chord. Let's say someone wants a C sharp. C sharp. Notice over here, I purposely put these in flats because I've used all sharp names over here. So I've put their enharmonic names when possible over here. So here's A, B flat, which is the same as A sharp, B, C, C sharp, which is the same as D flat. So here's the same pitches written out enharmonically. C sharp, F, and G. First string, there's an F. second string C sharp, third string G sharp, match the F, no go. So here is your C sharp chord, also called a D flat chord. Okay, that takes care of the major chords, which are all happy. There's a G happy, A happy, B happy, C, D, E, F, and F sharp, and back around to G. Now let's talk about the minor chords. They are the sad family of chords. Here's the sound of a minor chord. Here's D minor, as opposed to our D major, our happy. D minor, sad. By the way, you can make any minor chord happy by generating a happy rhythm. Oh, there's some gypsy music for you. Okay, so to make a minor chord, all we do is make the formula x plus 3 plus 4. We reverse the numbers in the formula. If I want G minor, it's G plus 3 plus 4. G, A sharp, and D. Or if you want to call it G, B flat, and D. Let's do a C minor next. C would be X plus 3 plus 4. C, D sharp, also called E flat, and G. Notice in the answer sheet here, all we're doing is taking the middle answer and moving it this way, which actually is down in pitch. So if we want E minor, these are the 3 notes. If we want G minor, there's those 3 notes. Here we'd have a little trouble, but again, we'd loop around. The C is what we need for an A minor. On our banjo, it tells the story just like over here. A C minor is C, D sharp, and G. A D minor is D, F, and A. An E minor is E, G, and B. G minor is G, A sharp, and D. So let's say we wanted to do an E minor on a banjo. Same process. Here's an E. There's the B. Instead of the G sharp as before, for a major, we move that down to a G open and match our E. These 2 fingers make a G minor. Here's another G that goes, since it's the minor note of the chord. E minor, these 2 fingers. Let's say we want to do A minor. And notice this will mark it out almost right away where we need to go on the banjo. Yep, there's our E we need, there's our C we need, here's our A, we match the E, and the G, nope. And again, here's our A minor, these 4 spots. If we want C minor, bring it back to first position, we need D sharp here, a C here, an open G, and a D sharp here to match. And the G, yes, this works. So there's our C minor, these 3 fingers. We want D minor, D, F, and A. Same problem, there's only a D on this string available, so we'll take it. And then for that reason we'll use this F and not that D. This A. Same thing here, we can either do an F here or an open D back here. Either a 4-finger version or a 3-finger version. The 3-finger version with that low D sounds very full, but if you use the closed F, you have a movable chord, as it's called. So this D minor can be slid up the neck for what's called a movable shape. So by sliding that chord, I just notice the root now is not on this string. The name of the chord is on this string. When I slide it up and down the neck, whatever note my finger hits on this string is the name of that chord. So if I want to do a D sharp minor, I just slide it up 1 fret. And now I'm doing a D sharp minor with a movable shape. The D minor movable shape. All right, let's say we want G minor. G, A sharp, and D. Well, this is not as easy as it looks. We have 2 possibilities. Let's write them all out here. Either that D or this G will work. This D will work. This A sharp, this G, this D, or this G, and this works. Open. So notice G minor could be done many ways. Here's one way to do it in the movable shape. G minor. Oh, sad G minor. Oh. Here's another way of doing it back in here with this one, and these 2. This brings up the subject of fudging. I do have a G here. I have 2 Ds this way, and I have 3 Ds, 1 A sharp, and 1 G. I've got everything I need. It would be nice, though, to have this G in a lower pitch instead of the highest pitch for a root note. So let's say I take this G instead of that open D, playing this way. I am barring with 1 finger these 2 notes. Technically that would be a better G than our other triple D version. And this is the way a lot of banjoists use it right here, because again it's very useful for getting all the minors up and down the neck. I'm up at the 12th fret getting D minor, C minor, back down to G minor. And on this chord, whatever note is on the 1st or the 4th string, that's where the roots are. Instead of being on the 3rd string, we've moved over to these 2 strings as root. All right. Now let's go to the next final chord I'm going to talk about, which are the 7th chords. The reason I'm using only majors, minors, and 7s is because that's normally the three chord types that are used in bluegrass music. There are many others, major sevens, on and on, add nines. Those are not used mainly in bluegrass music, but they could be easily ciphered out using what I've shown you so far with a little research. And if anyone wants to know about those chords, give me a shout and I'll give the formulas for those. Anyway, here we are back to the 7 chords, as they're called. They are called that because they use what's called the dominant seventh of the scale. If I do a G scale, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. The 7 is here, but they don't want that one. That is called the major 7 chord, and that's the romantic sounding chord. Where the bluegrass music wants the what's called the dominant 7, where we move that down 1 fret. Right now I'm doing an F sharp here. I'm strumming the rest of the banjo open for the major 7 sound. Ah, romantic. And I move that back a fret. Powerful. Bluesy. Okay, so the 7s are represented in these parentheses. If you want a G7 chord, you add an F note to that. That's why I was doing a G chord with an F in it. Notice if we take our G chord, that F note is 3 higher, an additional note on the first string. You add an F note to the 3 you already had, and you will get a G7. So this shape works all the time. If you want a C chord, you add a sharp note into the chord also. If you want a D chord, you add a C note, on and on. If you do an F chord, if you run off the chart, 1 higher than D is what we would need, so we could get it back here. Oh, the answer is this D sharp. It's 3 higher for an F chord. F, A, C, here, D sharp. D sharp, also called E flat. So let's do some of these chords. As I stated earlier, a G chord is G, B, D, but we're going to use this F. And here is another optional. We either can do this D or we can do this F here. And this G works. We need G's. So there's how to do an G7. A finger down on this F, or a finger down on this F, or you could do both F's at the same time, but you would be fudging, as I was mentioning earlier. You don't have the D's, you just covered up both of your D's if you use these 2 F's. So you have G, B, F, G, missing the B that is needed in the G chord. But a lot of times on banjo, this is done commonly. Speaking of that, let's do next a D7 chord. D, F sharp, and A, make the major chord, add a C, we make it into a D7 chord. Let's again put all these possible answers, plug them in first position. D's, F sharps, A's, and C's. D's, F sharps, A's, and C's. Okay, so first we could have a very nice sounding D7 by using this, 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 and this. Oh, by the way, the G string is not good. There's a D7, but it's not an easily played D7 because your little finger has this stretch up to F sharp here. I'm holding A, C, F sharp. So a lot of banjoists would take that little finger off, leave it open at D. That is a fudged version. Now we don't have any F sharps at all. Well, someone would say, I could get the F sharp back here. The same problem with the little finger. That's a big stretch to get your little finger here, here, and here are the three notes I'm playing. First finger, second finger, fourth finger. So most of the time a D7 is played this way on a banjo. It's fudged D7. D, F sharp, A's, and C's. Let's make an E7. E, G sharp, B as usual for a major, and add a D. B, D, G sharp, E. No. So there is an E7 on the banjo. I could have also done it with these. But notice I have no B left if I do it this way. I have fudged the E chord. All right. Let's do a B7. B chord plus 3 higher is an A. 1, 2, 3. Now, basically, here we have the B chord as a banjo player would do it, straight across right here. And you could put your little finger here for a B7. By the way, this G does not work. Listen to how it doesn't work. Not good. Even rolling, not very good at all. Okay, this brings up another possibility of talking about the sevens, how to accomplish them. Notice that A is just 2 frets lower than B, our name of the chord. So I could come back here to B and look at, 2 frets lower than B, there's an A. If some way we could get that into our chord, instead of using our little finger up here, we would have a B7 another way. So let me erase this. So I could do F sharp, A, D sharp, F sharp, and have a fudged B7. I don't even have a B in it. I've lost my root when I did this, but that's done a lot of times in banjo. This version of B7 is how it's done a lot of times. You could look up here and say, there's a B, there's the D sharp, there's the A, and there's the F sharp. And again, this does not work. There's a B7 that has everything you need in it. But normally I don't see many banjo players using this version. It is, again, stretching from the first finger, second finger, to fourth finger here. Is not the easiest. All right. All right, let's do A7 for a final 7th example. Here's our A chord. Up 3 is G. So notice in first position, we've already got our notes laid out for us for an A chord. And we need a G. We could put our little finger again up here on the first string, 5th fret. Or notice we could simply play the 5th string open, and that gives us our 7th tone that we need for an A 7th chord. So simply by hitting all the strings of an A chord, we accomplish an A7 chord. So as long as you roll hitting the 5th string, you will have an A7. If you're not going to hit the 5th string to get an A7, you either have to put your little finger up on the first string, 5th fret, to get that G back. 3, 2, 1, 3, 2, 1, 3, 2, 1. Or notice you can fudge. If you take away the A and leave that string open, playing only these 3 notes, you get an A7 with no root in it. By the way, if you're in a musical group, the bass player, that's their job, is to play the root note at all times, usually the root note in the 5th. That means this note and that note in our chords structures. A, E, A, E, A, E, C, G, C, G, E, B, E, B, E, B. They're rocking back and forth on 2 of the notes that are in the chord. Notice that is safe, because if they ever play these, then they're in trouble. If you go to A minor, the C sharp pitch is not going to sound right. That's why it's normally done that way in bass, that they stay away from the major stack in the middle here, because that can be turned to minor and mess up the bass playing. Okay, that ought to about wrap this up. Hopefully this was helpful to you. Any questions? Post it on the site. Thank you very much.